very much set up that way, to where these men are not asking us to honor them as men, but we are to honor them as those chosen by the Lord, as those who have been have had the Father placed that authority on them, His authority on them, His honor on them. So that's why they are honored. And that's why there is a respect and a listening ear that is due to this position. People need to start looking at it that way. They can't be addressed as a good advice or something that you could take or give or take, something that you can write down and come back to later, or you can go home and decide on your own whether you'll listen to it. It's not like that. When the Lord is setting up a way to overcome and have victory and to walk out and destroy the enemy, that's already been set up. It's backwards. It looks backwards because the victory is already won, but you have to walk out the victory in a very specific way. And these men were the ones that were given the title or the authority or the entrustment of the way of victory. And if you do not stand positioned toward them, facing them, listening for that instruction, and being willing to trust the Lord that this is the right instruction, then you will not have that victory. You have to stand before them, receive that instruction, and go forth with that instruction. It's important that way, that we are facing the proper leadership that was given, because you guys were given the proper word for the people. So there can be no blindness and there can be no fingers and ears. There has to be a quiet steadiness of what is being given, or we just can't have the victory. So, Father, I pray that as you've shown me the way that this would be laid out, Lord, that we would come into these proper positions, Lord, and be a ready people for this instruction, because they are waiting. Actually, there's a waiting. There's just a standing. It is like the word has been given from the Father to these men, and they are just waiting for people to position themselves properly for this word. Father, let us be in position, Lord. I don't know how to do this properly, but Lord, let it be so, God. Whatever it takes to properly position ourselves for what you are going to give us, because it's such a beautiful thing for you to offer us victory. So, Lord, I do pray, Lord, that we would properly position ourselves, Lord. And there would be no enemy in the camp. There would be no one coming through the ranks whispering anything or trying to get us to turn away from these words, that there would be no one allowed in these ranks, Lord, to do so. I would even pray that would be exposed, if there was something that was coming in through these people trying to whisper things that are not, that are against this way. I'm kind of seeing that there needs to be, let's see. What's interesting is that I'm actually seeing it. There's this character, and I haven't seen Lord of the Rings in a long time, but there's a character actually in this. I'm not sure, Emmanuel, if you've recently watched Lord of the Rings, or if you remember this character in the book or whatever, but it's actually somebody who was supposed to be a advisor to the king, and he was corrupted, and so he corrupts the king in such a way that he makes the king sick, and the truth has to kind of come and be spoken over, so that no longer this little tongue would speak to the king. So
I remember real well then.
Yeah,
his tongue is dark.
Actually,
so yeah, in the movie.
I actually see him. I see him. I see that you guys, you've come out of the tent of meeting with the Father, and you're facing a people, and the people are actually really still and positioned properly, almost just ready to listen and ready to hear. But he's weaving in and out of these people, speaking to them in their ear. I don't see anybody necessarily moved by it yet, but I see him there. He's there, trying to speak a word of discouragement or a word of to get them to move, if that makes sense, to get them to turn away.
I remember the word called poison. I've been praying all day long because I've been suffering some kind of toxin infection. So the Lord has been speaking to me. I said, what is it about, you know? So the Lord said, I'm detoxing you, you know. Get rid of the toxin. So I said, what is it about? He basically talking about he's doing that with some of his people, you know, so especially the remnant or the people, you know, he's delivering them from the toxins or poisonous stuff. I don't know the word, so you know, very hard to describe. You know, I'm being wrestling with the poison, something in my body, infection, for about 2 or 3 days now with a coughing going on. Yeah, this morning, the Lord said, I will heal you today, but you're gonna have to continue to rest a little bit. But you know, it's interesting how I don't get physically sick that often. Every time having almost a spiritual thing involved, or at least give time for me to think about spiritual things. But this one was very clear. The Lord said, I'm dealing with the toxic things going on in my body. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that that he was poisoning. That's a poison is a very good word.
Yeah. Something to do with the clean tongues. Well, I remember King was talking about certain tongues not clean, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, the name of that character is Grima Wormtongue.
What? Is that right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Wow. That's Kim's vision about the tongue being poisoned or something. How
interesting.
Darkness in it. So
yep.
That's interesting. So the first part you saw, I in the middle if I recorded, you know, the first part you saw what you saw in the vision. So your prayer you didn't describe very well. You just pray it out.
Yeah, so. I could see it. It's a tent, a meeting tent, and you're with the Father.
I'm with the Father.
I want to say, to me, it's the Father. That's what I see, and it's just not you. It's leadership as a whole.
I see.
And there's basically laid out before you in this tent. It's a meeting tent or tent of meetings or whatever, and before you is laid out the absolute strategy for victory.
What do you mean lay out? What on the table?
It's almost like
some map or some.
It's like a map. It's like but it's more like ships in a sea.
Oh, is that interesting?
Yeah. So he's got like, it's, you know how you have like the miniature ships and you move them along the water to show which way to go and things like that?
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And so you guys are clearly listening to him. Like his voice is speaking right to your ears and he's showing you physically. Yeah. And you have every single thing you need. And you're immersed in it. It's like an immersion. It's all around you. You're filled with it. You're crystal clear. Anyway, and then when you come out of the tent, you stand among the people and you wait for them to be ready. And they are. I mean, I don't see anybody. I mean, you know, everyone's standing and watching you and waiting. And then I see that Grima Wormtongue character come and with his poisonous lips and his poisonous mouth try to speak words of falsity or discouragement or lies on how to even actually proceed with what you've already been told as, the way, the truth, all that.
Spirit perversion, talking about, stuff like that.
Oh, interesting. That's interesting. Interesting that would come up for me too. Anyway, and so he makes his way from you guys doing that to your ear, just weaving in and out of the ranks of the troops.
Yeah. Continue prayers. Thank you.
Amen. I will do.
I mean now, pray.
I am. I am. I'm just steadying my heart. Well, Father, we see that this is seen. He is seen. He is in no shadow. There is no hiding. I pray even now, Lord, as you are preparing these troops with weapons. I see swords. I see a prepared sword. And actually, it's a cutting off. The tongue has to be cut off, actually. I see the swords. They're ready and they're need to be willing and ready to cut off the tongue. We pray over the manner of which this is done. Oh, this is a very quiet place, actually. You have to be quiet, listen, and ready. It's not something you see with your eyes, it's something you hear with your ears. So you can't, these readied ones that are ready before leadership, they cannot see it. They have to hear it to know when to be able to cut it off. I'm hearing the words like further instructions, like waiting for further instructions. It's really important that things are done in the order that you are as leadership giving out. And it's interesting because I'm seeing the sword, and the sword has to be in different positions. There's different positions for the sword to maneuver itself. So whether it's the hilt is in the hands of the troop or the person that's in the body, whether it's up or whether it's placed down or whether it's, in battle, whether that means like slicing at that tongue. It's really important to be listening to what it's a degree the sword will go in. So the sword has to kind of position itself at certain degrees, and that is done through transaction between the leadership and the body. And when that happens, once that is the way that things are established, then these, I want to say battalions or different, I'll call them battalions, then they're able to march off in their direction, march off into into their portion of this battle and what they are being called to do. They can then leave with their instruction. And I'm just seeing that the reason it's so important is because you have to be properly positioned in this battle, because you're going forward with a team, with a body, and everybody has to be in synchronized, moving in the same direction. Each little battalion that's been, told to go and handle each portion of this victory, it has to be synchronized and ordered. That's all that I see.